Hello friends, a very warm welcome to each and every one of you on my YouTube channel BDRG Tutorial. I hope, wish and pray for your happiness, success and good health, and I hope you all are doing fine in your life. So in this video we will be learning about the newly incorporated Ind AS 15, that is revenue from contracts with customers. So before starting this video, I would like to drive you back into the history where we must have read in our class 11th the revenue recognition concept, and thereafter in our graduation, or perhaps in if you are preparing for CA examinations for CA inter as well as for CA finals, we must have read about the AS9, that is revenue recognition, and thereafter Ind AS 15. So this newly incorporated Ind AS is somehow different from the earlier AS, and there's a wide, thus coverage of this Ind AS is wide, and the scope and the recognition criteria is somehow different. And in this video we will be learning how the revenue will be recognized, what are those criteria that needs to be fulfilled in order to recognize the revenue. So in this video we will be covering up a specific part, and in the later in the upcoming videos we will be covering these this particular Ind AS onto a more depth, with more depth, with more deep understanding, and thereafter some practical applications and practical examples will be solved, which will help you to understand this Ind AS and the relevant concepts therein a little better. So without further ado, let's just start this video. Before starting this video, I would like to inform you that if you want to view this video in हिंदी, अगर आप हिंदी में इस वीडियो को देखना चाहते हैं तो हिंदी वीडियो का लिंक मेरी इस वीडियो के डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में मेंशन है. आप मेरी इस वीडियो के डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में जाएं और उस लिंक को क्लिक करके इस वीडियो को हिंदी में भी देख सकते हैं. एंड इफ़ यू हैव एनी डाउट्स और क्वेरीज रिगार्डिंग दिस पर्टिकुलर वीडियो और एनी अदर वीडियोज दैट आई हैड अर्लियर पोस्टेड, you may send your queries in the comment box of this video or any other video that I had earlier posted. So without further ado, let's just start this video. So as far as the objective of this Ind AS is concerned, that is the revenue recognition. What would be the amount of revenue that will be recognized, what are the criteria that needs to be fulfilled, and apart from this there are certain reporting requirements to the users of financial statements about the nature, amount, timing and uncertainty of the revenue and cash flows arising from a contract with the customer. And moving on to the applicability of this Ind AS. So this Ind AS is applicable on all except for few, that is the number one is lease contracts, which is within the scope of Ind AS 116, and thereafter insurance contracts, that is Ind AS 104, and the third one is the financial instruments and other contractual rights, which covered under the scope of Ind AS 109, financial instruments under Ind AS 110, consolidated financial statements under Ind AS 111, joint arrangements, separate financial statements and investments in associates and joint ventures. And this Ind AS is not applicable on the transactions that are of non-monetary exchanges, you would say barter system, and the if those non-monetary exchanges are between the entities which are operating in the same line of business, then this Ind AS will not be applicable to them. So these following four are the non-applicable parameters to this Ind AS 115. And moving on, we have the 5-step model. So a transaction has to pass to these 5-step model in order to recognize the revenue in the books of the account. So number one step is the identifying the contracts with the customer. So in our first video, that is this video, in our present video, we will be covering up this step only, and in the next video we will be later dealing with the upcoming steps that are required in order to recognize the revenue. The next step is the identify the separate performance obligations in the contract. So once the first step is fulfilled, that is once the contract comes in within the purview of this particular Ind AS and certain criterias and obligations are met, then we have to identify the separate performance obligations that are in the contract. So let us take an example, the most appropriate example of a car manufacturer. A car manufacturer used to deliver the cars as well as some repairing and maintenance services to its customer for a limited number of years, and if a customer wishes so, he or she may extend the warranty card by the payment of annual sponsorship or annual membership fees. So let us suppose X is the car manufacturer, and a customer desires to purchase a car, and he went onto the showroom of X, and the manager of the X company has given him the offer. Apart from the delivery of the car, he will be entitled to take the membership services, which consist of repairs and maintenance for a period of 3 years, and thereafter after the completion of 3 years, he or she can extend the warranty for further 5 years. So in this particular case, we can see there are 3 separate performance obligations, and we have to identify the amount of revenue which will be recognized and which will be posted separately in these separate performance obligations. So that would be our step number 2, and moving forward to the step number 3, the amount of transaction price will be decided on the basis of separate performance obligations, and thereafter the allocation of transaction price to the separate performance obligations, and the fifth and the final step in this case would be the to recognize the revenue when or as each performance obligation is satisfied. So in this case, the first obligation will be satisfied on the delivery of the car, and the revenue will be recognized accordingly, and thereafter on the completion of every performance obligation, that is the repairing and maintenance service for next 3 years, the revenue will be recognized and will be posted and will be showed in the books of account accordingly. And if a customer wishes or desire to extend the product warranty card for next 5 years, so the amount of revenue will be allocated in those 5 years on a pro rata basis, and in the each year after the completion of the performance obligation, that is the repairing and maintenance work, the revenue will be recognized. So these are basically the 5-step models which a transaction has to fulfill in order to recognize the revenue in the books of the account. So in this video we will be covering up only the first step, that is the identifying contract with the customer, and what are the necessary requirements in order to say that yes, the customer, yes, the contract is within the purview of this particular Ind AS. So moving on, we have this particular contract, this particular step, that is identifying the contract with the customer. So there are certain points to be taken into consideration while we are entering into a contract with the customer. So these are, so first of all, let us see the definition. So a contract is an agreement between 2 or more parties that creates enforceable rights. So enforceable rights means that a certain party has the has certain rights over the other party while entering into agreement. If something bad happens in the future, then that party may have the enforceable right, or may have the audacity to say to ask or to ask the other party, or to obligate the other party to help to compensate them in whatever manner they could or they should. So enforceability is the matter of you can say a matter of law. So the definition is an agreement between two or more parties that creates enforceable rights, and these enforceable rights are for both the parties. Suppose I have told you the scenario one, that is the customer is unable to take the goods or is unable to obtain the service, then the aggrieved party must have some rights for the compensation, and vice versa. If the owner of this if the service provider or the good seller has not delivered the goods or has not executed the performance of service within this stipulated time, then the aggrieved party must have the rights of the compensation from the service provider or goods seller. So in this case, enforceability is a matter of law. Now moving on, we have certain criteria, that is the contract can be oral, and it can be written, or it can be implied by an entity's customary business practices. So a good seller or service provider may have certain good relationship with other clients, and so he must have entered into an existing agreement with the other clients. So based on those terms and conditions, the other contracts or other agreements can be executed, or you can say that contract can be verbal, or it can be written with the conditions laid down in the agreement and the rights of both the parties. So it can be oral, it can be written, or a contract can be implied through the customary business practices among the two parties, if they have mutual consent and good relationships. So now as far as the duration of the contract is concerned, there are two parameters. So either the contract has no fixed duration, and it can be terminated or modified by the either party at any time. So if a party thinks that no, this service provider is not fulfilling the demands, fulfilling the type of service which he or she has promised at the time of execution of contract, the other party or the aggrieved party may either terminate or modify the conditions of the contract at any time. And the second parameter is the automatically renew on a periodic basis that is specified in the contract. So as I stated in my previous example of car manufacturer, the car manufacturer has given the additional service of repair and maintenance for a period of 3 years. So at the end of the 1 year where the execution of repair and maintenance services is done, so automatically the second year contract for the performance of repair and maintenance of car is automatically due, and we can say that the contract is automatically renew on a periodic basis, which is specified in the agreement between the buyer and the seller of the car. Now moving on to the next slide, we have a contract does not exist if each party to the contract has the unilateral enforceable right to terminate a wholly unperformed contract without compensating the other party. So you can say the agreement or a contract is not virtually exist if the either of the party of the contract has a enforceable right to terminate a wholly unperformed. It is important to be noted that this should be an unperformed contract without compensating the other party. And in order to have a contract unperformed, there are certain criteria which should be met, and these are: number one, the entity has not yet transferred any promised goods or services to the customer, and the entity has not yet received and is not yet entitled to receive any consideration in exchange for promised goods or services. So both the conditions should be met in order to term the contract as a wholly unperformed. The first one is the entity has not yet transferred any promised goods and services to the customer, and the entity has not yet received, you would say, the other party. The first clause is for the service provider, that is service provider or the goods seller, that he or she has not transferred any promised goods or services to the customer. And the clause B is applicable for the customer, that he or the first point is relevant for the customer point of view, that he or she has not received or has not in part of a service that has been provided by the service provider. And the clause B is for the service provider, that he or she that the service provider has not yet received any payment or is not yet entitled to receive any consideration for the exchange of promised goods or services. Now moving on, there are certain points we should remember while moving forward in this video. So point number one, the contract shall be treated as unperformed if both the conditions as mentioned above should be fulfilled. So both these conditions should be fulfilled in order to term the contract as unperformed. And the second one is, if either of the two are not fulfilled, then the contract shall not be treated as unperformed. Now moving on to the next slide, we have recognition of revenue. So an entity shall account for a contract with a customer that is within the scope of the standard when there are certain criteria are met. So basically there are 5 criteria which should be met. So to say that this contract comes within the purview of Ind AS 115. So these 5 criteria are: the parties to the contract have approved the contract and they are committed to perform their respective obligations. So the number one criteria is that the parties, the contract should be approved by both the parties, and whether it is in writing, orally, or in accordance with the other customary business practices. The second one is the identification of parties' rights regarding the goods or services to be transferred, and the third one is the identification of the payment terms. The fourth one is it should be of a commercial substance, that is the risk, timing, or amount of the entity's future cash flows expected to change as the result of contract. And the next one is, it is probable that the entity will collect the consideration to which it will be entitled in exchange for the goods or services that will be transferred to the customer. So the fourth and fifth point denotes that tells about the customer's ability and intention to pay for the services they received or the goods they have received from the service provider or goods seller, and accordingly the revenue will be recognized on the basis of the ability of the paying ability or the financial ability of the customer. So suppose I have entered into a contract with a person called B for the sale of 5,000 goods at the price of 50,000, but later on I realized that he will be able to only pay me 30,000 rupees. So my revenue will be recognized to the extent of rupees 30,000 only. So these point, that is D and E, basically formulates or you can say specifies the customer's ability and intention to pay the amount for the service and the goods he receives. Now moving on, we have points for the consideration as far as these criteria are concerned. So I'm just reading it in verbatim to understand these criteria a little better. So if a contract with a customer meets the criteria at contract inception, an entity shall not reassess those criteria unless there is an indication of significant change in facts and circumstances. Now, at the time of inception of the contract, if you are certain that yes, you will be able to receive the whole amount of the consideration for the transfer of goods and services to the customer, there is no requirement on your part to reassess the criteria unless there is a significant change in the facts and circumstances. Moving on to the point B, we have if a contract with a customer does not meet the criteria, then an entity shall continue to assess the contract to determine whether the criteria are subsequently met or not. So at the inception of contract, if these specified criteria which I pointed out in the earlier slide are not met, then also you can continue to assess the contract to determine whether the criteria are subsequently met or not. Now moving on to the point C, we have when a contract with a customer does not meet the criteria and an entity receives consideration from the customer, then the entity shall recognize the consideration received as revenue when either of the following events has occurred. Now what are those following events? The entity has no remaining obligations to transfer goods or services to the customer, and all or substantially all of the consideration promised by the customer has been received by the entity is non-refundable. And the second one is the contract has been terminated and the consideration received of the customer is non-refundable. So the point C states that if the contract with a customer does not meet the specified 5 criteria and you can say the entity has already received the consideration from the customer, then the entity shall recognize the consideration only when either of the following events are occurred. So there is no need for this particular Ind AS 115 if these specified criteria are not met, but the entity has received the consideration for the transfer of goods or services, and later on it is realized that the amount of consideration is non-refundable, and there has been no remaining obligation on the part of service provider or goods seller to transfer goods or services to the customer. So in this case, that transaction will not be going into the process of those 5 steps which I have mentioned in my previous slides, and we will recognize the revenue as and when it is received by the service provider or the goods seller. So moving on to the next slide, we have the following points for the consideration as well. So an entity shall recognize the consideration received from a customer as a liability until one of the events as mentioned in point C or point B are subsequently met. So the points which I have covered in my previous slide, until those points are or those criteria are not met, the entity shall recognize the consideration as a liability on its part. So the point C, that is when the criteria are not met but they have received the consideration amount and that consideration amount is non-refundable, so that should be fulfilled. And the point B, which is the criteria are subsequently met, and till the time it is subsequently met, the entity shall account for the consideration as its liability. Now moving on, we have point E. Depending on the facts and circumstances relating to the contract, the liability recognized represents the entity's obligation to either transfer goods or services in the future or refund the consideration received. In either case, the liability shall be measured at the amount of consideration received from the customer. Now moving on to the next slide, we have combination of contracts. So there are certain scenarios in which an entity can combine 2 or more contracts entered into at or near the same time with the same customer, and it can treat it can treat the combination of contract as a single contract if one or more of the following criteria are met. Now, what are those following criteria? See, the contracts are negotiated as a package with a single common objective. So the stated objective of both these contracts are same, and the amount of consideration to be paid in one contract depends on the price or performance of the other contract. And the third one is the goods or services promised in the contracts are a single performance obligation. So these are basically three criteria which should be met in order to classify a combination of contract as a single contract. Now moving on, we have the term of contract modifications, which could happen as a result of change in scope or price or both, and thereafter a contract modification could exist when the parties to a contract approve a modification that either creates new or changes existing enforceable rights and obligations to the parties to the contract. So suppose if I entered into a contract with an architect and he has decided to construct a 5-story building for me, and in the later part of the contract he has promised me that we are just modifying our contract, and I will be providing you I will be constructing you a 7-story building, and out of those 7-story building I will be taking the top floor. So, and your price will be accordingly modified on the basis of these 7-story building. And since I have taken the 7th and the top floor, so your price will be systematically reduced, and therefore we should have entered in. Therefore we must have entered into a new contract and specifying the new terms and conditions. So in this case, a modification exists between the parties of the contract, and it has changed the enforceable rights for either of the parties to the contracts and certain obligations of the parties to the contract as well. So a contract modification could be approved in writing by oral agreement, just like the original contract, which could be approved in writing by oral agreement or implied by the customary business practices. Now moving on, if the parties to the contract may have not approved a contract modification. So suppose I have not agreed to the demands or the terms made by my builder, and so in that case the entity shall continue to apply this standard to the existing contract until the contract modification is approved. Now moving on, I have prepared a pictorial view, or you can say a bar diagram chart, in order to understand you this concept a little better. So if a contract modification is approved, then if a contract modification is approved, then if a contract modification is not approved, then we have to not account for the contract modification until it is approved. But if a contract modification is approved, then we have to see whether it add distinct goods or services that are priced commensurate with the standalone selling price. So standalone selling price, we would say that the current prevailing market prices at that point of time. So if they are equal with the current prevailing market prices, then we have to see furthermore conditions. If yes, then we shall account it as a separate contract, and if the answer is no, then we have to see whether the remaining goods or services are distinct from those already transferred. Now if the answer is in affirmative, then we shall account for the termination of existing contract and creation of new contract, and if the answer is no, then account it as a part of the original contract. So these are specifically the conditions in order to see whether the contract modification arise or not, and how the revenue will be recognized when a contract modification takes place. Should we take those contract modification as a separate contract, or should we terminate the existing contract? So there are certain conditions to it. Now that marks to the end of this video. So I hope I have cleared all the doubts as far as this particular step 1 is concerned, and we'll be dealing with some practical applications and practical examples in order to understand this concept a little better. So for now, this is it, and please do like this video and share this video as much as possible. And if you have any doubts or queries regarding the same, please feel free to ask me any questions, and you can post your comments below in the comment box of this particular video. Thank you so much.